preparation for our trip, I wanted to make this tiny little palette to take with me using my Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2. I wanted to use them in a different way. So I made these little circles on a plastic sheet. And it was a good idea, but it didn't really last very long, as you can probably imagine. But I just wanted to experiment with them using my water brushes. But what worked better for me was this very minimal palette that I made using a few gouache paints that I mixed. That was really nice, and it lasted quite a long time. Hello everyone, and welcome to my new video. This one is going to be a little bit different because I am going to tell you about our trip to Prague. So in Prague you will see those street artists everywhere. You will see street art by Czerny, like this Kafka head right here. And you will find lots of artisan shops, lots of galleries, official galleries like this one, and also unofficial galleries, and just little stores that have art in their windows, and which is really interesting. Prague has a very rich history concerning puppetry, so you could find all those marionettes and puppets, a bit Burton-like in this case, and museums with figurines and wax figures, and actually just statues everywhere. I have a new thing with drawing statues because I just took a picture of this one because it looked like he's taking a selfie. But there are the people who will stand still for you. So there are a lot of statues in Prague, and bookstores with amazing books, little nice cafes, and actually a lot of vegan food. As a vegan, you will find so much food there, like this traditional food veganized. One of the first things I did though arriving there was going to an Koh-i Noor store. And it's right next to the Muka Museum, and this is the store. It's tiny, and it has the famous Czech brand Koh-i Noor. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And I had my eyes on these colored pencils because they're affordable and still very nice artist quality. And I also had to get this Muka notebook and a pencil sharpener. In addition to the other cultural stuff that we did, like this concert that we visited, of course, I had to go to the National Gallery. And the National Gallery is spread around different buildings in Prague. I only went to the one in the Trade Fair Palace, which was great. Maybe it wasn't the best decision because I was hoping to see a Rembrandt and some old masters, and I misunderstood the way the galleries were distributed over these buildings, but this was amazing. There are a lot of well-known names in this museum, like this one, for example, is by Cézanne. Thought it was super interesting how he left some canvas showing. This one is by Manet. And here's a Repin, and I'd heard so much about his brushmanship that I had to take a closer look. I have to say, it's not necessarily the kind of brushstrokes that I like, but that's not an artsy statement, it's just subjective taste, I guess. And even the more primitive paintings like this one from Rousseau had their charm. One of my new favorite discoveries here was this artist Hunais. I'm not sure if I'm butchering the name, But there was more than one painting that I liked of him. And then, of course, a lot of female artists like this one. Louise Max Erlerova. I hope I said that one right. And I always love how female artists have a different perspective. This one was interesting because it was so ghost-like. And this one I really just photographed because I did not like the color scheme, like too much blue for me and too cool here. I like the gesture. And this one was just bizarre. I don't know, some blurry parts here in the right, and it looks like they're drinking absinthe or something like that. And here's a muka, actually, or muka, done in tempera, and a bit less finished than the other ones that we know of him. One of my new discoveries as well was this artist, and his name is Shitusi, or Hitusi. I am not sure if I'm saying that right again. Also with more than one painting that I liked, and this one with a similar sunset by Sharpeners. So those two artists just hit a nerve for me. And they will be returning in some of my other photos. Here's another one by Hunais, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's so rococo and silly, but I still love it. Like the subject matter, okay, is a bit funny, but yeah. Another female artist here, Zdenka Braunerova, who photographs like more poor and gloomy areas. Here we have another Cézanne still life. And this museum actually had a lot of Picasso. This is one of them. Honestly, I'm not a big Picasso fan, so let's go over that quickly. Here's another Sharpeners, and I love the brushstrokes on this one and how subtle the color really is when you look at it from a distance. More brushstrokes of pointillism. Really I was just a nerd walking around and taking pictures from all sorts of sides and perspectives to look at how the artist worked. Probably one of those really annoying museum visitors, but at least no alarm went off because I was too close. This is one of my favorite landscapes that I found, and it's also by Chitusi. I just love the colors in this one, especially the reds. And I don't know, I took some pictures just because I thought the paintings were interesting, not necessarily because they were something that I wanted to emulate, but I guess you can always steal techniques here and there from artists, even if their style isn't necessarily similar to yours. More structure on a canvas. And from afar, it looks amazing, but I realized that for me, for some strange reason, I preferred like smooth brush strokes. This is a Munch, by the way. And it doesn't surprise me at all. More interesting brush strokes. And I thought this was always one horizontal stroke, but it wasn't. And this was really strange because there are like marker lines on top of the oil. I've never seen anything like that. By Cermak. I don't know, have you ever seen anything like that? I thought it was weird. Like, they sketched on top of the painting? I have no idea. And this was supposed to portray different moods and emotions, which it did very successfully, and that's why I photographed them in all their gloomy, depressing glory. And these are etchings. They look like pencil drawings. But what's amazing about these, sorry for the reflections in the glass, is that they're so detailed. And they're actually quite tiny. Like if this were a large painting, then I wouldn't even be that impressed. But look at my hand and look at how tiny this is. And if you could see it in real life, you would see even more details. So I thought that was amazing. I tried to take pictures of all the artist names next to the paintings, but I realized afterwards that most of the time you couldn't really read them. In this case you can. For the statue, this was Dead Abel. The statues, there were a lot of statues, and I just took pictures of a few where I really liked the composition and like the gesture of it. There were a lot by Bohumil Kafka. I tried not to take too many pictures of nudes because I was not sure of the repercussions on YouTube. So sorry if I missed some of your favorite paintings. If you've ever been to the museum, it's really hard to be a Puritan when you want to look at art. And this one, oh my god, that's so heartbreaking because as a cat mom, this is terrible to look at, but I still took a picture of it because it's so emotional. A wax sculpture of a drowned cat. And here we're getting to the more surreal kind of things. And before we do, there's more illustrative stuff that's more up my alley. Like these two artists, especially Richard Teschner, this has such a children's book fairy tale quality that I really love, and I love the colors. So I'm definitely going to look more into that. And here, just also colors that I really love. The light, the way he captured the lighting scenario. And of course, we had to have a Klimt in there. Not my favorite. I think he may also be a bit overrated in general. This is his Virgins. Yeah, well, there is a lot of Art Nouveau being the city where Mucha was active. So that was really interesting to see. And I didn't have the time to visit the Mucha Museum. I wanted to absorb more different stuff, so I decided to go to the National Gallery instead. Next time, maybe I'll be visiting even more exhibitions. And there is an entire exhibition or space dedicated to graveyard sculptures that you would use as tombstones. Also very impressive. Another Picasso. I didn't like any of the Picassos there, but that's just me. And unmistakably Van Gogh with the directional brush strokes. And a Renoir, even though that's also not my favorite of his. And I discovered a sculpture by Rodin, which I didn't really recognize at first as his, but there it is. And now we're getting to the more abstract stuff, actually more surrealistic stuff or slightly abstracted. And here I really had the least amount of paintings that I liked. I just photographed them for inspiration and technique and brush strokes. There was an Otto Dix just a minute ago, and this is a Paul Klee. And I think you can take a little bit from all styles. I actually skipped the entire exhibition on the first floor that was contemporary because I just didn't have that much time and it wasn't that important to me, and I preferred just really taking my time with the oil paintings and the more traditional stuff. This is an abstract that I can work with, which I can't say about all of them. And again, more naive stuff, which is definitely charming at times. And more folksy, I guess. And here's me with a Mucha painting called Czech Heart. And looking at this from a distance, you would really not expect the type of structure that I will show you here. I mean, this looks like cement or something. I don't know how they did that. It's amazing. And this painting is even a bit comical, but I still love it. It's so colorful and bright. And this is the type of brush stroke that I find really interesting. It looks so smooth and buttery. I probably wouldn't paint like that, but it definitely gives a certain feel and vibe to the whole thing. It's a wonderful place. I really enjoyed walking through there and just taking my time and absorbing everything and feeling all the feelings, and you should really do that every now and then. It's just good for the soul. I actually found another Koh-i Noor shop that was a bit larger, and I decided to go in because I had forgotten to get an extra tube of white oil paint. You can never have enough white oil paint, or any paint for that matter. So I went in again, and then I also visited this really cool bookstore called Shakespeare, where you could also sit and use it as a cafe. And there I found this lovely book by two of my favorite artists, Neil Gaiman and Chris Riddell. And I mean, just look at this place. I love that British old-fashioned cozy cafe kind of vibe. I wish I could have stayed there longer, but we'll probably revisit Prague another time. Of course, I have to show you my colored pencils that I bought. How do YouTubers do that? I had to drop the box, of course, and ruin it on the first day. But anyway, how do YouTubers use one hand to unpack stuff? I have no idea. But here are my pencils. I'm very happy. I've always wanted a big collection like that. I mean, you can do quite a bit of mixing with color pencils, but this, I hope, will make my life a bit easier. And I know that Koh-i Noor just recently released a set of 140 pencils, but it's not available everywhere. So I think these 72 are a good compromise. There are not too many. I probably could have gone with less, but I'm really happy about this. And I remember my father, who was a carpenter, having those really cool pencil sharpeners, or one pencil sharpener, so I had to get one in the same style, even though this is plastic and not as high quality. But I thought it was fun to have like a hand crank sharpener instead of the normal ones. And this actually fits more than one pencil in, and you can even determine how sharp you want your tip to be. Like I said, in the other store, I had to get a tube of paint. And I couldn't resist this multicolored pencil because it just reminds me of my childhood, and I thought it would be fun for sketching. The next day we visited the castle in Prague. It's huge and it's wonderful. We only saw it from the outside, so we didn't buy tickets for the interior exhibitions, I guess, but I realized that right next to it there was the museum with the old masters, and of course I hadn't known before, or I probably would have gone here. The exhibition that I went to was called The Long Century, and it was more 20th century, so I missed the stuff between Renaissance and Classicism, but I'll probably make up for that when I go back next time. I still wanted to show you the building, at least, that if you see it, you recognize it right away. And take a look at Rembrandt and Co. I actually didn't have much time to sketch during our 5-day trip because we had so many things planned, and like I said, I was there with my husband, and I don't think it's very nice to have him stand there and wait for me while I sketch stuff, so it wasn't as productive as I hoped it would be, but I did try out my little self-made gouache palette at some point, and I actually think it's a really good idea. You could even glue this to some kind of a band that you put around your wrist, like a wristwatch or something, and take it with you wherever you go. You can use the lid of your tin to mix colors, and of course these water brushes are super handy because you don't have to lug around any water with you. And this isn't even watercolor paper or anything, but I think for being on the go and for travels, this is a really nice way to color your drawings. We spent the last day at the zoo. It was the first sunny day in Prague for us, so we wanted to do something outdoorsy, and since I had worked at a zoo before, of course I had to visit this one since I'd heard good things about it. And we took a lot of pictures and videos of very cute and very beautiful and amazing animals, and got ready to say goodbye to Prague. I definitely will be coming back someday. One thing I did at home though was make a color chart and compare them to my polychromos, because it's sometimes really hard to tell from the outside of the pencil which color you'll really get on paper. So I'm really looking forward to using them. You will be seeing more of them in these videos. For now, I hope you have a lovely week. Take care, stay creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye!